Man. Okay, there we are. You see me and you see the presidential address stuff on here. So if you see that, let me know. Okay, so I'm not going to um, uh, go through everything. We're going to try to watch what he says, what Trump says during his speech tonight. And so let's go to Donald Trump's address to Congress and we'll see what we see. And I'm not going to talk about everything. I really have little interest in talking about anything other than anything pertaining to Ukraine, Russia, peace deals, that sort of thing. Okay. Like the noise, the background, the milling about. Yes, I can mute it and do that. Okay, so hi, it's nice to see all of you. A number of you are already here talking. I'm going to go through some of the comments. Anything exciting? Oh, thanks for the membership thing for Niels. I appreciate that. Wow, thank you for the super sticker as well, Jay Fitzarelli. Fitzarelli sounds Italian. Okay, so there's a lot of you that we've been talking about. Anything you want me to focus on, folks, or otherwise talk about? Somebody, I saw somebody say something about a drinking game, and oh yeah, 100,000. Did I hit? I hit 100,000 yet? I'm like real close. I'm at like 99,000 or something like that. Last time I looked. Um, let's see. Let's go and look at that. And come on. Yep, sure enough, there it is. 100,000. How about that? Well, keep at it and something happens. All right. So let's see. Go said, good evening. Did you see Trudeau's speech on the CPAC channel? I did not see Trudeau's speech. I know that I saw little bits about him saying things about Canada and what am I saying? Curses. What is it? Tariffs. But I've been going all day. Like today has been just brutal. Tuesdays are a longer day for me. So, I mean, my schedule is all over the map with different class on different whatever. Thank you, the Weasel. I appreciate the gifted memberships. That's very kind of you. So, at any rate, so I've been going. I put out my morning video, and I also put out this one about not a lot of people watch it, and that's okay. About Reagan, and it was not about Reagan itself, but the difference between Reagan and Trump. And it's how the Republican Party has changed and why it matters. It's David Brooks talking about that, and that is really, really useful to understand if you want to understand where Trump is right now. And I was going to put this other one out about like what would Reagan say AI generated that somebody else created that he then tagged me like knowing that I couldn't help myself with that. And so I was going to put that out, but then Zelensky's speech was just his like 3-minute speech was just awesome. So cable public affairs channel CPAC. Okay. Not familiar with that name. I think about CPAC as a Republican meeting every year. And so yeah, so we're going to get going to it when it gets. Let's see if I'll put the captions on so we can kind of watch the captions if there are subtitles. Subtitles are unavailable on this one. Okay, well, we'll see if we can find something. But at any rate, we're going to listen to them, and then we'll pause periodically. And then when we get to anything about Ukraine specifically, we're going to try to listen really intently. And then before we get to anything dealing with Ukraine or Russia, we can just answer questions and that sort of thing periodically. Who do I think Trump is closest to? Andy says. Some say Clinton, some say Johnson, some say McKinley. I'm not sure what Theodore said he's no Reagan. That's right. He's no Reagan. He has a portrait of Reagan in his office, but they're cut out of very different cloths. Thank you, Gatto, about the congratulations on 100,000. Yeah, we just crossed that bridge sometime over the course of the day today, because last I looked, it was at 99 and change. So that's nice to have crossed that threshold. Okay, so let me go see, and if there's another channel here that will have it live and have State of the Union. Here's I guess this is the Washington Post. Let me see if there are subtitles to it on this. And if the subtitles work here, then we'll watch it here. So let's look at this and see. Yep, there we are. Okay. Why Trump's remarks? No, that's not the actual thing itself. Well, so much for that. So President, let's see. Donald Trump speech to Congress. Okay, so these are not what I'm hoping for. Okay, well, I guess we'll just watch the AP version. So here we are, and
President Donald Trump is giving a big speech before
that's
Congress
not what I'm talking about. Let's get back to where we were. Okay, give me a second. Trump State of the Union. Presidential address to joint. Here's C-SPAN. Let's see if C-SPAN has,
not just from the president, but also from her office, trying to do things much differently this time around.
Okay,
Mr. Speaker,
here we go.
the president's cabinet.
Okay, so the cabinet's just walking in right now. I'm going to periodically mute stuff along the way, and then like we can talk when that's going on. And is Greg here? Somebody said hi, Greg. Oh, there's Greg. Thank you, Greg. Greg helped me work out what this is, where you're seeing it this way, where he was field testing this with me, and he was like, "Hey, you're not live now." I thought I was unlisted, but I was like, "Don't say anything that you wouldn't want to be said live," because I mean, this technology I'm learning. Okay, so somebody else said something about a drinking game related to this. Now, I wouldn't say drink, but let's just put a bunch of stars in the comments when you see him say deal or something related to a deal, and that'll be the equivalent. I mean, I'm a teetotaler, look, literally here, tea. So okay, so the cabinet's arriving. Here's JFK Jr., who, for some bizarre reason I don't understand, was talking smack about Ukraine the other day when his job is Health and Human Services. So he'll not actually be like real dangerous to Ukraine in his given role. But what the trick there is that like he's going to weigh in with the others in the cabinet on giving that kind of counsel outside of his area of expertise that would be problematic for things. So at any rate, yeah, so here comes Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, which still seems bizarre to me that he's gone from Major to Secretary of Defense, but okay. All right, let me see about different views here on here. Can I put this like this? Yeah, I can put myself in the corner. Is that a little bit better? Do you like that? Okay. Blessings, Greg Terry and Professor Slava Ukraini. Pudler has the dirt on Trump, etc. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, people say that, but I have to prove it before I would be willing to say something like that. But it's possible. I mean, we don't know. Okay. This is, who's this? Arrival of the cabinet. I don't know who that was. Okay, so we'll just work our way through stuff. How unfair it is. You watch these people and walk in with a smirk on their face and a smile with no worries while the American people suffer. What a tragedy. Yeah, I mean, politicians are somewhat detached from everybody else's life, generally speaking. And that's why politicians, like calling somebody a politician is not a kind thing to say. It's almost a dirty word or fighting words. You notice, Prof, all the people he put in these positions, they all got screwed by the establishment. That's a really interesting insight. So part of this is that if you go back to the to that video about like the difference between the populists and the conservatives that has a Reagan and Trump on it. Yeah, the populists really do kind of want to kick the teeth into the establishment. They're the ones that are going to be talking about the deep state, right? Conservatives real conservatives don't really talk about the deep state, like the deep state. Like it's the deep state is the conservatives version of big bad business, like, Mr. What is it, Mr. Burns on The Simpsons? Right? I mean, it's that sort of thing. So it's the deep state. It's just this. That's their kind of conspiracy theory in populist land. Okay. Trump is in trouble. My read is Canadians feel disrespected and are ready for a fight. Yeah, I mean, it could be. Wow, a bunch of you said stuff and I wasn't paying attention. Um, Professor Gertis explains, as someone studying international relations, it's crazy to see how fast someone can unravel 80 years of hegemony. Well, I wouldn't call it hegemony, but 80 years of our policy, certainly. I mean, this is just, it's unbelievable to see this all playing out as it is. So they're all saying hi to each other in
He is
here.
going to be there a long time. Whether or not he's there as long as Joe Biden, I think only time will tell.
Soon as Trump arrives, they'll start, saying they'll settle down. They'll say the president of the United States. He'll walk in, he'll shake hands, and then he'll start his speech. So I'm curious what you think that is going to happen here. When we're looking at this, hold on a second. I'm going to be honest. I'm angry at these people. I'm a lifelong conservative, and I don't feel that hardly anything they stand for represents me. Yeah, that's Papa Trader. This is my plight. I don't feel like my own party represents me, and the other party's mad at me because I'm not doing something like I can somehow magically fix it. My own party. So if you're frustrated and you're on the left, I'm even more frustrated being on the right because my party is like doing what it's doing. And no, I can't leave my party because the other party is not going to want me for multiple reasons. And if you start your own party, for those of you who are in Europe, you have no chance here. That's just it. You just need the overwhelming support of one side or the other. Hello, Jonathan McElravy. Welcome. Okay, yeah, Prof gets it from both sides. I sure do, but that's okay. I mean, I put myself out here to try to help you understand what's going on. If people want to be upset with me, they can be upset with me. That's perfectly all right. Sure wish John Bolton was running at this point. I don't remember who it was, but someone said, where does Elon sit? Said Greg Terry. Someone said, if I were going to, I'm trying to remember the quote and who it was that said it, but if I was going, this was a real ardent conservative talking about John Bolton. If I was going to, I would charge, I think he said, I'd charge hell with a squirt gun if John Bolton was with me or something like that. Like he is a conservative, like whatever he says, I'd be almost willing to say he speaks for me as far as where I am positionally. Because that's just the cloth that he's cut out of. Will Elon wear a suit? Okay, where's Elon going to sit? Okay, so I will. Let me hear what they're saying here now. It's like in the commentary.
All that, we're going to get your reaction. We're going to get your reaction. Greta's going to be here getting reaction from members and some of the.
So we're watching this on C-SPAN, and as soon as they start talking, we'll listen to things, and I'll cut in and out to questions if they have questions periodically. But when we hear him talking about Ukraine or Russia or things related to international politics, as we are interested in on this channel, we will certainly we'll stop with the questions temporarily, and then we will go ahead and actually listen intently, and then I'll take whatever questions that you have after it's all said and done. So let's keep going with your questions. Still no confirmation from the Ukrainian side on the mineral deal. Greg called me an hour ago and said, hey, it's not been signed yet. He's got his ear to the ground. Cheryl says we both want conservative to conserve the democratic system. Dr. Gertis, even Bernie Sanders wants the same. We're not on a different side. So we want to do different things with that, certainly, but neither of us want to tear it down like this is. What you're seeing here, and conservatives have more in common now with old school conservatives and old school liberals actually have more in common now than maybe as much in common or more in common than where conservatives and populists are. And I know that sounds weird because we have similar policy ends, but the way that we want to get there is so different. I was just talking to somebody else the other day about how this was a retired professor that I hadn't seen for a while that used to work with me. And he was saying, yeah, remember when you could just sit down with somebody over a cup of coffee and could disagree with them and still like them? Yeah, that's where we should be. We should be able to do that. And I don't mind if you disagree with me. We can still like each other. That's all right. Jonathan McElravy said, brace yourself for great TV. And has Elon been spotted here? And yeah, okay. So All right. Break. Oh, look at this. Breaking. EU pushes for a decision on whether they can negotiate an announcement of a planned meeting to discuss further consultation to finally decide whether or not they are ready to start talks. Well, that's pretty profound. I don't know if they're ready for that. They probably need to go for the pre-announcement or the pre-meeting for the pre-announcement of that. That was freaking brilliant, by the way, Andy. Let me read that again. EU pushes for a decision on whether they can negotiate for the announcement of a planned meeting to discuss the further consultation to finally decide whether or not they are ready to start talks. Man, I'm going to highlight that. Let me see if I can take a picture of that. Maybe we'll incorporate that into one of the videos tomorrow. Yeah, that's something. Yeah, it just feels like that. And like if the EU steps up in a meaningful way, and now before that, okay, here he is. Here's Trump entering. Trump has entered the building. So the EU needs to step up in a meaningful way, and if they don't, then we're going to have a problem. But you know, I mean, Trump with what he says tonight, he could vacillate, totally flip flop on what he did last week, and say Zelensky's the greatest thing ever. And like, I honestly don't know whether he will say something like, "We're dropping sanctions on Russia," or "Zelensky's the greatest thing ever." You just can't freaking tell with him. This is why I've consistently maintained he's a wild card. I've not said he's going to be great. He's going to be great for Ukraine. I've not said that. I've said he could be. I mean, I can't predict them. Yeah. So, okay. Melania I saw that, Papa Trader. Melania looks really excited. Yeah, she didn't look all that. Yeah. The look on his wife's face, she must really hate him. I don't know. I mean, I don't, she kind of has that same face all the time. We don't know. Okay. So, yes to that sign. This is not normal. I didn't see a sign that this is not normal. I was reading your comments. I'm sorry. And if I'm looking over to the side, it's because I'm looking at the thing on the screen here right now. Okay. All right. So please, if you are looking or listening or whatever, and you see that it's doing that he's talking about Ukraine and I'm still talking about something, flag my attention, do something. What should we do to flag my attention? No, just exclamation points, nothing but exclamation points. And if I see people pop up with that, I'll immediately stop what I'm doing, put the audio back on if I'm answering something and the audio is not on. But for right now, let's see what they're saying. They're not really talking at all. They're just kind of walking through, shaking hands, that sort of thing. I love languages and literature and wordplay. You do great work. At Lironis. What did Lironis say? I like wordplay too. Lironis. I missed it. Well, it's a ways back there apparently. Okay. So yeah, I personally prefer Bush the father, but his son wasn't a bad president, like his critics said. I prefer a hawk like W in our current state of the world. Well, that's for sure. And you know, he messed up too. Like but you know, I read his book Decision Points, and if you read Decision Points, you have like a whole different appreciation for George W. Bush. Like you feel him very differently. You're like, wow, given the data that he had, I don't know if I would have made a different decision than what he did. And it's tricky. It's easy to judge in hindsight, but okay. Trump has given Europe to Russia. This has always been Russia's historical plans. Trump is aligned with he might be, but he might also surprise us. We don't know. Now, the way that I would approach this is you have to test the thing that is opposite of the way that you naturally see it. So if you naturally think that Trump is a traitor who's beholden to Putin, you have to really test that and try to look for evidence otherwise. If you think that he's naturally not like that, then you have to really look for evidence that he might be beholden to Putin. That's how you will get to the greatest approximation of what might be true, because your natural inclination is going to lead you one way or another. Okay, here we go. He's about to start. Can you hear me and that at the same time, like the applause and me, or is it garbled? Okay. Yes, you can hear me? Okay. So we're live, and I'll just hit mute periodically if I need to answer a question quickly, as long as it's not about Ukraine. And again, when it's about Ukraine or Russia, we will pause or we will listen intently during that time. All right. I think the only surprise, worst of all, if he surprises and comes out favorably for Ukraine, he'll just flop back before it matters. That might be correct. That might actually be what happens. So it's got to be really careful here. Could be both. Trump really likes Putin. Yeah. He'll do what he thinks benefits. Yeah, Cheryl's right. He will do what he thinks benefits him most. I think that's the clearest way to understand Trump is his compass points to Trump. Greetings from Germany. Welcome, Charlie.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's a great honor. Thank you very much. Speaker Johnson, Vice President Vance, the First Lady of the United States.
See, that's the face. Like, her face doesn't change a lot. You're right. Uncertainty is not in our best interest. You're absolutely right. The clapping is driving you nuts, you said, but this kind of clapping is a normal thing. And usually you look for half the house will be clapping, half won't be. It's funny.
Congress, thank you very much. And to my fellow citizens, America is back.
Okay, watch. You look at it. The Republicans all jumped up on the right-hand side, and the Democrats are just sitting there sitting on their hand. So you'll see that that's a normal dynamic. It's kind of like in the British Parliament where they kind of boo and cheer for their side and not the other side. Okay.
6 weeks ago, I stood beneath the dome of this Capitol and proclaimed the dawn of the golden age of America.
Oy.
From that moment on, it has been nothing but swift and unrelenting action to usher in the greatest and most successful era in the history of our country. We have accomplished more in 43 days than most administrations accomplished in 4 years or 8 years.
A bit of an overstatement.
Getting started.
Okay, in the comments, you can refrain from the boos. That's just going to keep us from reading real comments. I mean, I guess you can do it, but I'm looking for real comments about what questions you have. Yeah, as the economy tanks.
I returned to this chamber tonight to report that America's momentum is back, our spirit is back, our pride is back, our confidence is back, and the American dream is surging bigger and better than ever before.
So honestly, I want that to be true, but I'm just not seeing the evidence economically here with what he's saying.
The country is on the verge of a comeback, the likes of which the world has never witnessed and perhaps will never witness again. There's never been anything like it.
That line will be in the papers. We'll never witness again.
The presidential election of November 5th was a mandate like has not been seen in many decades. We won all 7 swing states, giving us an electoral college victory of 312 votes.
So it's really interesting because it's a mandate in the sense that they did win those states, but each of those states was too close to call, and it happened to swing that way, but it was too close to call at the time, so it didn't look like that at all. So that's kind of an interesting.
We won the popular vote by big numbers and won counties in our country.
Democrats don't like that. All right, so they're shouting them down from the other side, from the Republican side.
counties in our country, 2,700 to 525.
So this is really odd because
What
the
amendment
booing doesn't happen in our Congress. I'm surprised that Speaker Johnson hasn't called them to order of some sort. That's not a normal
Now,
thing.
for the first time in modern history,
Oh, here he is.
more Americans believe that our country is headed in the right direction than the wrong direction. In fact,
Yep,
it's
there he
an
is. Speaker Johnson
astonishing
with the gavel.
27-point swing, the most ever.
Yeah, the booing is not a normal thing for decor in the U.S. Congress. This is why I like watching the British because I just get a kick out of them saying "here, here" and "boo."
Just 1 month gain ever recorded, a 41-point jump.
Yep, there's Speaker Johnson.
Members are directed to uphold and maintain decorum in the House.
That's
and
what I was
to
just saying.
cease any further disruptions. That's your warning.
Yeah, this
Members
is
are
really-
engaging in willful and continuing breach of decorum, and the chair is prepared to direct the Sergeant at Arms to restore order
Wow.
to the joint session.
That is really, really unusual. I have never seen that before. Wow. Yeah, it's almost like a metaphor for where we are in this country and at each other. It's been a very rancorous decade or so.
Mr. Green, take your seat. Take your seat, sir. Take your seat. Finding that members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum, the chair now directs the Sergeant at Arms to restore
Wow.
order.
So that'll be the headline tomorrow. Wow.
Gentlemen from the chamber.
I've never seen anything like that before. That's just amazing that that's happening. Holy cow. I've never seen that happen before. Wow. Okay. So that got off to an interesting start. Yep. That's right. Greg is here. I have questions for him. He's got his ear to the ground of
Members
what's
are
about to happen.
directed to uphold and maintain decorum in the House. Mr. President, you continue.
Thank you. Over the past 6 weeks, I have signed nearly 100 executive orders and taken more than 400 executive actions, a record to restore common sense, safety, optimism, and wealth all across our wonderful land. The people elected me to do the job, and I'm doing it.
Okay, executive orders are really not all that great. If he wants to actually make something stick, he has to get it passed by Congress, by both houses of Congress, and then he has to sign it. Yeah, executive orders only last through an administration, and then the next guy comes in and undoes every one of them, and back and
In
forth.
fact, it has been stated by many that the first month of our presidency, it's our presidency, is the most successful in the history of our nation. By many.
Well, I'm not sure how he's calculating that, but he's entitled to his opinion. I don't know that that's how it's. Oh, look at that.
And what makes
Did you see that? They have signs that say
number two is
lies and
George
false. and-
Washington. How about that? How about that? I don't know about that list, but we'll take it. Within hours of taking the oath of office, I declared a national emergency on our southern border, and I deployed the U.S. military and Border Patrol to repel the invasion of our country. And what a job they've done. As a result, illegal border crossings last month were by far the lowest ever recorded, ever.
So he's talking about something else. I'm looking at your comments, and somebody here, Laronis, where is it said Trump is talking to himself? Yeah, he kind of is. He's kind of tooting his own horn. And somebody else asked, what would happen if all the Democrats walked out? Well, that would be the big story.
To come, much easier that way. In comparison, under Joe Biden, the worst president in American history. There were hundreds of thousands of illegal crossings a month, and virtually all of them, including murderers, drug dealers, gang members, and people from mental institutions and insane asylums, were released into our country. Who would want to do that? This is my 5th such speech to Congress. And once again, I look at the Democrats in front of me, and I realize there is absolutely nothing I can say to make them happy or to make them stand or smile or applaud. Nothing I can do. I could find a cure to the most devastating disease, a disease that would wipe out entire nations, or announce the answers to the greatest economy in history, or the stoppage of crime to the lowest levels ever recorded. And these people sitting right here will not clap, will not stand,
So
and
Musk
certainly will
steals
not cheer
state
for these
Medicaid.
astronomical
Musk
achievements.
steals.
They won't do it, no matter what. Five times I've been up here. It's very sad.
The placards they were holding was Musk steals. Now that's an interesting innovation that they're holding up these placards on the Democrat side. The only problem with that is that's going to come around the next time on the other side. So Cheryl said, heading over to Mercado Media so I can swear till my heart's content. Godspeed, Cheryl.
This one night, why not join us in celebrating so many incredible wins for America? For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
Yeah, this somebody said M35 Ben Vids says this is a campaign speech. Yeah, it very much is. Very much like a campaign speech. That's kind of what's going on. He's tooting his horn about how wonderful things are under him.
Every day my administration is fighting to deliver the change America needs to bring a future that America deserves, and we're doing it. This is a time for big dreams and bold action. Upon taking office, I imposed an immediate freeze on all federal hiring, a freeze on all new federal regulations, and a freeze on all foreign aid.
Okay, Chris Farley says, how are these three positions of presidency all sitting next to each other? It seems really bad for national security. Yeah, there's actually they keep somebody out just in case something went wrong. But yeah, I mean, you have the president, you have the vice president, you have the president, the vice president, and the next ranking member in our chain of command is the Speaker of the House. That's the next person. Like if Trump and Vance were to die somehow tonight, the Speaker of the House would take over tomorrow.
Rights Council. We ended all of Biden's environmental restrictions that were making our country far less safe and totally unaffordable. And importantly, we ended the last administration's insane electric vehicle mandate, saving our auto workers and companies from economic destruction.
Again, you'll see here that the Republicans will stand on certain things and the Democrats will continue sitting down, as you're seeing right there. So that's and if Biden was given a speech, you'd see exactly the opposite.
Shackle our economy. I have directed that for every one new regulation, 10 old regulations must be eliminated, just like I did in my very successful first term.
Republicans tend to be not in favor of lots of regulations. Democrats tend to be much more favorable to them. And this has nothing to do with, don't say oligarchy or something like that. That's not what we're talking about.
Unnecessary rules and regulations like no other president had done before. We ordered all federal workers to return to the office. They will either show up for work in person or be removed from their job.
Now that's interesting. After people were quiet quitting, really employees all around the country, it was a buyer's market for employees. And so to force them back now, big companies are starting to do that kind of thing.
Is allowed to viciously prosecute his political opponent like me. How did that work out? Not too good. Not too good. And I have stopped all government censorship and brought back free speech in America. It's back.
Yeah, Wendy said, I hope he gets on with the actual speech in a moment. It's 2:30 a.m. here. All he does is praise himself. Boring. Yeah, I want him to get on to what's going on with Ukraine and Russia.
And 2
Let's
days ago,
hear
I
about it.
signed an order making English the official language of the United States of America.
That'll mean nothing because there's no official language and everybody, well, the majority, vast majority speak English. It doesn't change anything.
I renamed the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America.
I don't know why that's important, but you see it on Google Maps now.
And likewise, I renamed for a great president, William McKinley, Mount McKinley again.
So for context, Obama renamed Mount McKinley as Denali, which was what it was years and years ago, and he put it back, and Trump's undoing that.
Tyranny of so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion policies all across the entire federal government and indeed the private sector and our military. And our country will be woke no longer.
So that's interesting. Like the biggest reasons people voted for Trump was they felt pushed at by woke policies, and you can see that statistically. That's even a higher correlation than being Republican or being conservative when people were polled about their voting.
For gender, very important.
I know I said I wouldn't chime in, but I just keep trying to give context here, and I can't help myself because this is how I function in life.
Based on merit, and the Supreme Court, in a brave and very powerful decision, has allowed us to do so. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
The Supreme Court never clapped. They always
We have
sit there
removed the
and just
poison of
he could be complaining about them or praising them. They don't clap. They don't do anything by tradition. Same with the military. Neither military nor Supreme Court will react.
male and female.
Again, see how the House is divided and the Democrats are all sitting down not cheering and the Republicans are standing and cheering? That's very normal, very common.
I also signed an executive order to ban men from playing in women's sports.
Okay, and again, executive orders only last through his administration. If you want to actually make a law that will do that, then the House has to pass the law and the Senate has to pass the law, and it has to be signed by the president. So it really doesn't go that far.
Was an all-star high school athlete, one of the best, preparing for a future in college sports. But when her girls' volleyball match was invaded by a male, he smashed the ball so hard in Peyton's face, causing traumatic brain injury, partially paralyzing her right side and ending her athletic career. It was a shot like she's never seen before. She's never seen anything like it. Peyton is here tonight in the gallery, and Peyton, from now on, schools will kick the men off the girls' team.
Okay, so somebody put in the comments, can Trump stop the aid already passed by Congress to Ukraine? I thought Congress controlled the purse. They control the purse, meaning they allotted the money for that. But Trump, as the executive, does have the power to stop it, and he did stop it. So that's where we are so far. Yeah. I'm trying to read your other comments.
And if you really want to see numbers, just take a look at what happened in the women's boxing weightlifting.
Okay, he's talking about other stuff. Can executive orders, Barry says, can executive orders be overturned? Non-American here. Yes, they can be overturned. The next administration routinely goes in and overturns all the executive orders of the previous administration if it goes Democrat to Republican or Republican to Democrat. That's a very common thing, and that's why an executive order only goes so far. It's how the idea behind an executive order is this is how you execute the law that has been passed by Congress. So it's kind of directing how a law is to be dealt with.
What I have just described is only a small fraction of the common sense revolution that is now, because of us, sweeping the entire world. Common sense has become a common theme, and we will never go back. Never, never going to let that happen.
Wow, New Zealand's watching. So it's late night for you
Highest priorities
or early morning.
to our economy and get dramatic and immediate relief to working families. As you know, we inherited from the last administration an economic catastrophe and an inflation nightmare.
He keeps running against Biden. I just don't understand why he keeps talking about this.
Grocery costs and drove the necessities of life out of reach for millions and millions of Americans. They've never had anything like it. We suffered the worst inflation in 48 years, but perhaps even in the
Okay, so that's kind of unfair because the worst inflation in 48 years came out of COVID, where, yes, Biden probably shouldn't have had another package. Trump's package, I understand. We didn't know what was happening. Biden wanted to do it too. I was arguing with somebody about don't do this. It's going to cause massive inflation. Sure enough, it did. It was predictable because you can't just give everybody a few $1,000s each and then not have inflation. But I kind of give Biden a bit of a pass for that, but just because like it was COVID. I mean, it was a different system.
out of control. And we're working hard to get it back down. Secretary, do a good job on that. You inherited a total mess from the previous administration. Do a good job.
I kind of missed whatever that was. Oh,
A major
resistors,
focus of our
people,
fight to defeat inflation
people protesting.
reducing the cost of energy. The previous administration cut the number of new oil and gas leases by 95%, slowed pipeline construction to a halt, and closed more than 100 power plants. We are opening up many of those power plants right now.
Okay, so this is drill, baby, drill, and this could actually work out good for Ukraine and Russia. I mean, all other things being equal, bad for Russia, good for Ukraine if you can open up the spigots and the cost of oil and gas goes way
A
down.
national energy emergency. As you've heard me say many times, we have more liquid gold under our feet than any nation on earth, and by far. And now I fully authorize the most talented team ever assembled to go and get it. It's called Drill, Baby, Drill.
That's what I was just talking about. Republicans love the idea. Democrats don't like it, partly because of environmental factors and other regulations.
My administration is also working on a gigantic natural gas pipeline in Alaska, among the largest in the world, where Japan, South Korea, and other nations want to be our partner with investments of trillions of dollars each.
Well, we're supposed to also open up one from Canada, but let's see how that all plays out now too. That was something that we were also all about.
Later
before.
this week, I will also take historic action to dramatically expand production of critical minerals and rare earths.
Okay, let's hear.
Here
Come
in
on.
the USA.
Here in the USA. Okay, well, I thought he was going to talk about Ukraine there.
To further combat inflation, we will not only be reducing the cost of energy, but will be ending the flagrant waste of taxpayer dollars. And to that end, I have created the brand new Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. Perhaps you've heard of it. Perhaps.
Yeah, this one's kind of a mixed bag. Oh, look, he's wearing a tie. Yeah, people were asking if Musk was going to wear a tie.
Which is headed by Elon Musk, who is in the gallery tonight.
Okay, so how Doge is going about that is really an open question, whether it's good or bad. To me, taking a sledgehammer to things like USAID seems like a bad idea. You reduce all your soft power and then you have other problems.
Elon. He's working very hard. He didn't need this. He didn't need this. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Everybody here, even this side, appreciates it, I believe.
That was actually kind of funny, but
They
They're-
just don't want to admit that.
they don't appreciate it.
Just listen to some of the appalling waste we have already identified. $22 billion from HHS to provide free housing and cars for illegal aliens. $45 million for diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships in Burma. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. Nobody knows what that is. $8 million.
That's actually kind of funny. But so what he's articulating here is how you should be approaching this. You should be going systematically through things and seeing which programs are useful or not. But just lopping off entire departments seems like not the greatest idea, because there's usually, like they say that if a fence is there, you want to find out why the fence was put up before you rip it
$8
down.
million for making mice transgender. This is real. $32 million for a left-wing propaganda operation in Moldova. $10 million for male circumcision in Mozambique. $20 million for the Arab Sesame Street in the Middle East. It's a program. $20 million for a program. $1.9 billion to recently created Decarbonization of Homes Committee, headed up, and we know she's involved. Just at the last moment, the money was passed over by a woman named Stacey Abrams. Have you ever heard of her? A $3.5 million consulting contract for lavish fish monitoring. $1.5 million for voter confidence in Liberia.
Okay, so while he's listing that thing, I want to go back to the guy that got kicked out earlier that the sergeant at arms had removed and escorted. It was a big thing back in the Obama administration when a congressman, actually, he yelled out, "You lie," in the middle of the thing, and like the entire chamber gasped, and he apologized the next day, but that was a pretty big breach of decor. So what you saw tonight was a much bigger breach of decor. This just doesn't happen within our system, but this is why I watch the British Parliament, because they're kind of fun.
Outcomes in Asia. Asia's doing very well with learning. You know what we're doing. We should use it ourselves. And $101 million.
Decorum, not decor. Excuse me. Decor is the fashion in the room. I know what I'm talking about. I'm just very tired. It's been a long day.
Trump administration, all of these scams, and they're far worse, but I didn't think it was appropriate to talk about them. They're so bad. Many more have been found out and exposed and swiftly terminated by a group of very intelligent, mostly young people, headed up by Elon, and we appreciate it. We found hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud.
The only problem is they found hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud, let's say, but they also have cut things that maybe they shouldn't have cut because they're being like way too aggressive with that. So that's tricky. And now I'm talking about this because this actually impacts Ukraine and international relations.
Inflation and other things. Taking back a lot of that money. We got it just in time. This is just the beginning. The Government Accountability Office, a federal government office, has estimated annual fraud of over $500 billion in our nation, and we are working very hard to stop it. We're going to. We're also identifying shocking levels of incompetence and probable fraud in the Social Security program for our seniors, and that our seniors and people that we love rely on. Believe it or not, government databases list 4.7 million Social Security members from people aged 100 to 109 years old.
So I don't know if that's true or not, or how much, but it strikes me like there can't be a system as large as the U.S. government that doesn't have some fraud somewhere. So they'll find something, but how much of it is actually related to, I just don't know.
3.47 million people from ages 120 to to 129. 3.9 million people from ages 130 to 139. 3.5 million people from ages 140 to 149.
Those are good genetics. I hope that I have those kind of genetics.
And we're searching right now. In fact, Pam, good luck. Good luck. You're going to find it. But a lot of money is paid out to people because it just keeps getting paid and nobody
Yeah.
does anything.
Yeah, that Social Security thing will be fact checked. Somebody put in a comment. Yeah. Can I call out a lie? Yeah. I mean, perhaps I'm sure that he's getting the numbers from somewhere, but it's probably not all like being paid, or they're probably on the rolls, but not being paid or whatever. We just don't know exactly what it is. So I'm not saying his numbers are accurate here. Forgive me if I've given you that impression.
We have
Well,
a
look at all that
healthier
with the
country
false
than I
and the
thought, Bobby.
save medicated and whatever.
Including, to finish, 1,039 people between the ages of 220 and 229. One person between the age of 240 and 249. And one person is listed at 360 years of age.
I don't know how that's possible that could even be when the Social Security system only goes back to like 12 or something, 19 teens something. I don't remember exactly when it started.
Find out where that money's going. And it's not going to be pretty. By slashing all of the fraud, waste, and theft we can find, we will defeat inflation, bring down mortgage rates, lower car payments and grocery prices, protect our seniors, and put more money in the pockets of American families.
Well, that's if we don't do tariffs, because the tariffs are going to hurt us. So that protectionism is a bad idea. 1930s. Somebody fossil hunting said 1930s. I stand corrected.
And today,
income. I'm sorry. Taxing income started in the 19 teens.
Near future, I want to do what has not been done in 24 years. Balance the federal budget. We're going to balance it.
Okay, that's a common conservative kind of theme. They don't do it very well, but there is a conservative theme about that.
With that goal in mind, we have developed in great detail what we are calling the Gold Card, which goes on sale very, very soon. For $5 million,
Oh gosh.
we will allow the most successful job-creating people from all over the world to buy a path to U.S. citizenship. It's like the green card, but better and more sophisticated.
Yeah, you got to be careful how you allow that to work.
We'll have to pay tax in our country. They won't have to pay tax from where they came. The money that they've made, you wouldn't want to do that, but they have to pay tax, create jobs. They'll also be taking people out of colleges and paying for them so that we can keep them in our country instead of having them being forced out. Number one, at the top school, as an example, being forced out and not being allowed to stay and create tremendous numbers of jobs and great success for a company out there. So while we take out the criminals, killers, traffickers, and child predators who are allowed to enter our country under the open border policy of these people, the Democrats, the Biden administration, the open border insane policies that you've allowed to destroy our country.
And he wonders why people don't want to play nice with him. Like he wants to keep punching at him. So, and he doesn't mind them not liking him either, apparently. But this is the way that he talks about everything. Hey, folks, if you could do me a favor, there's 800 some odd of you in here right now. And if any of you would be so willing to hit like, that's not hitting like for Trump, that's hitting like so that this can spread, I'd appreciate it.
Change. For nearly 100 years, the federal bureaucracy has grown until it has crushed our freedoms, ballooned our deficits, and held back America's potential in every possible way. The nation founded by pioneers and risk takers now drowns under millions and millions of pages of regulations, and debt. Approvals that should take 10 days to get instead take 10 years, 15 years, and even 20 years before you're rejected. Meanwhile, we have hundreds of thousands of federal workers who have not been showing up to work. My administration will reclaim power from this unaccountable bureaucracy, and we will restore true democracy to America again.
Okay, if you have any other questions, I'll try to answer them periodically while he's talking about other things not related to Ukraine.
And any federal bureaucrat who resists this change will be removed from office immediately. Because we are draining the swamp. It's very simple. And the days of rule by unelected bureaucrats are over.
So that's interesting because they were laughing there with his days of rules by unelected bureaucrats are over, because they're thinking about Elon Musk and he's thinking about like some bureaucrat somewhere in a cubicle at the Department of whatever.
Deliver the greatest economy in history is for this Congress to pass tax cuts for everybody. They're in there. They're waiting for you to vote. And I'm sure that the people on my right, I don't mean the Republican right, but my right here, I'm sure you're going to vote for those tax cuts, because otherwise I don't believe the people will ever vote you into office. So I'm doing you a big favor by telling you that. But I know this group is going to be voting for the tax.
Yeah, again, you see half the side clapping and half the side just sitting down on their thumbs.
It's a very, very big part of our plan. We had tremendous success in our first term with it. A very big part of our plan. We're seeking permanent income tax cuts all across the board. And to get urgently needed relief to Americans hit especially hard by inflation, I'm calling for no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security benefits for our great seniors.
So that's going to be wildly popular, especially with because so people talk about, he's just getting tax cuts for his billionaire friends. That's not hitting his billionaire friends. That's hitting the kinds of crowd that Democrats would generally be in favor of supporting. And so that seems like it's going to be popular. That's just me thinking out loud.
But only if the car is made in America.
Uh-oh. There we go with some protectionism. There's a better way to do this. Just make better cars in America, and then people will buy them.
Seen plants are opening up all over the place. Deals are being made. Never seen. That's a combination of the election win and tariffs. It's a beautiful.
What about the parts? Says Eric Wild. Well played, Eric. That's right. The parts are made in Canada, but
our auto industry to absolutely boom. It's going to boom. Spoke to the majors today, all three, the top people, and they're so excited. In fact, already numerous car companies have announced that they will be building massive automobile plants in America, with Honda just announcing a new plant in Indiana, one of the largest anywhere in the world. And this has taken place since our great victory on November 5th, a date which will hopefully go down as one of the most important in the history of our country. In addition, as part of our tax cuts, we want to cut taxes on domestic production and all manufacturing. And just as we did before, we will provide 100% expensing. It will be retroactive to January 20th, 2025. And it was one of the main reasons why our tax cuts were so successful in our first term, giving us the most successful economy in the history of our country. First term. We had a great first term. If you don't make your product in America, however, under the Trump administration, you will pay a tariff, and in some cases, a rather large one. Other countries have used tariffs against us for decades, and now it's our turn to start using them against those other countries. On average, the European Union, China, Brazil, India, Mexico, and Canada, have you heard of them? And countless other nations charge us tremendously higher tariffs than we charge them. It's very unfair. India charges us auto tariffs higher than 100%. China's average tariff on our products is twice what we charge them. And South Korea's average tariff is 4 times higher. Think of that, 4 times higher. And we give so much help militarily and in so many other ways to South Korea, but that's what happens. This is happening by friend and foe. This system is not fair to the United States and never was. And so on April 2nd, I wanted to make it April 1st.
Someone check on Professor Gertis. Yeah, I'm I'm sitting here beside myself. Like, I'm a free marketeer, so I think this is ridiculous. And like, when did conservatives become the protectionist party? I just don't understand this.
Superstitious person. April 2nd, reciprocal tariffs kick in. And whatever they tariff us, other countries, we will tariff them. That's reciprocal, back and forth.
Okay,
Whatever
that's not terrible compared to some other ways of going about doing this, but I'd rather just remove all tariffs. Free trade is a great way to wealth. Productivity and free trade are what drive the economy.
Us out of their market, then we will do non-monetary barriers to keep them out of our market. There's a lot of that too. They don't even allow us in their market. We will take in trillions and trillions of dollars and create jobs like we have never seen before. I did it with China and I did it with others, and the Biden administration couldn't do anything about it because there was so much money they couldn't do anything about it. We have been ripped off for decades by nearly every country on earth, and we will not let that happen any longer.
Okay, come on, let's get on with it. See that face? That's how I feel about much of this.
3 months about Mexico and Canada, but we have very large deficits with both of them. But even more importantly, they've allowed fentanyl to come into our country at levels never seen before, killing hundreds of thousands of our citizens and many very young, beautiful people, destroying families. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. They are, in effect, receiving subsidies of hundreds of billions of dollars. We pay subsidies to Canada and to Mexico of hundreds of billions of dollars, and the United States will not be doing that any longer. We're not going to do it any longer.
So a way to fix that is just remove the subsidies and not add extra tariffs. Like, why start a war with them over that? That's, a trade war.
We have had $1.7 trillion of new investment in America in just the past few weeks.
And Keith Hall says, sorry, Doc, I can't bear listening to this. We'll wait for your analysis. I understand that. Hopefully we'll get to the Russian issue, the Ukrainian mineral thing, or whatever is coming down the pike. I mean, I can't imagine how much longer he can go. So
announced $500 billion investment, which they wouldn't have done if Kamala had won. Apple announced $500 billion investment. Tim Cook called me. He said, I cannot spend it fast enough. It's going to be much higher than that, I believe. They'll be building their plants here instead of in China. And just yesterday, Taiwan Semiconductor, the biggest in the world, most powerful in the world, has a tremendous amount, 97% of the market, announced a $165 billion investment to build the most powerful chips on earth right here in the USA. And we're not giving them any money. Your CHIPS Act is a horrible, horrible thing. We give hundreds of billions of dollars.
Yeah, building
chips doesn't mean a thing. They take our money and they don't spend it. All that meant.
Yeah, building chips in the USA is probably a good thing. I don't know it's going to be competitive with Taiwan as far as the cost, but that's a good thing. Somebody asked how long does this go on? it could be an hour, could be an hour and a half. We're at an hour 5 right now. He's got to get to Ukraine eventually. I mean, like that's supposed to be what's going on here. I didn't make up the speech, so I can't tell you.
Mr. Speaker, you should use it to reduce debt or any other reason you want to. Our new trade policy will also be great for the American farmer. I love the farmer. Who will now be selling into our home market, the USA.
I'm just hoping this isn't a segue into our trade policy with Russia or something along those lines, because that'll make me just go nuts.
Other countries and companies, they're really in a bad position in so many different ways. They're uninspected. They may be very dirty and disgusting, and they come in and they pour in and they hurt our American farmers. The tariffs will go on agricultural product coming into America, and our farmers starting on April 2nd. It may be a little bit of an adjustment period. We had that before when I made the deal with China, $50 billion of purchases. And I said, just bear with me. And they did. They did. Probably have to bear with me again. And this will be even better. That was great. The problem with it was that Biden didn't enforce it. He didn't enforce it. $50 billion of purchases. And we were doing great, but Biden did not enforce it. And it hurt our farmers. But our farmers are going to have a field day right now. So to our farmers.
Somebody saying, I bet he skips Ukraine. I don't think he can skip Ukraine. I think after the kerfuffle in the Oval Office last week, I just can't see how you can skip that. In fact, it feels like what happened in the Oval last week was like almost a setup to get to the place where we're talking about this now.
Lumber and steel, because if we don't have, as an example, steel and lots of other things, we don't have a military, and frankly, we just won't have a country very long. Here today is a proud American steelworker, fantastic person from Decatur, Alabama. Jeff Denard has been working at the same steel plant for 27 years in a job that has allowed him to serve as the captain of his local volunteer fire department, raised 7 children with his beautiful wife, Nicole, and over the years provide a loving home for more than 40 foster children. So great, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff.
So what's going on here is they normally every president does this. Clinton and Bush and Obama and whoever, they point out certain people to highlight things. So that is what you're seeing here.
Tariffs are about making America rich again and making America great again, and it's happening, and it will happen rather quickly. There'll be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that.
Jay Fitzarelli says, you bet me 10 coffees that he will not speak about Ukraine. I can't imagine that he won't.
Look, it's very low, the lowest we've ever been. Jeff, I want to thank you very much. And I also want to recognize another person who has devoted herself, our magnificent First Lady of the United States.
I can't fast forward. This is live. Somebody asked if we can fast forward. Can't do it.
Melania's work has yielded incredible results, helping prepare our nation's future leaders as they enter the workforce. Our First Lady is joined by 2 impressive young women, very impressive. Haley Ferguson, who benefited from the first.
Okay, what questions while they're doing this thing, highlighting people up in the stands? What questions do you have about what we're about to see, or what we've seen so far, or why this works this way in the American government? This seems weird to me because I'm a European, that sort of thing. I recognize that only a third of my audience are American citizens, and so some people will have these kind of questions. If you have them, please put them in the comments. Do I think he'll hug the flag after he's finished? He does that on the campaign sometimes. Calling this, why are we not calling this a State of the Union? That's a good question because I thought it was a State of the Union. It's just a joint session of Congress. I don't know. There might be another joint session later on that's actually the State of the Union itself.
The publication of such images online is terrible, terrible thing. And once it passes the House, I look forward to signing that bill into law. Thank you. And I'm going to use that bill for myself too, if you don't mind. Because nobody gets treated worse than I do online. Nobody. That's great. Thank you very much to the Senate. Thank you. But if we truly care about protecting Americans' children, no step is more crucial than securing America's borders. Over the past 4 years, 21 million people poured into the United States. Many of them were murderers, human traffickers, gang members, and
So
other.
he's got to get to Ukraine after the border. Of course, he's going to talk about the border. This was a big campaign thing for him. So okay, other questions that you have about here? I saw something in here. Do you think that? Where is it? How is Europe, particularly England, responding to Trump blocking military aid to Ukraine? I really don't know, but I'm going to be on with Georgie tomorrow or the next day, I hope, and we're going to talk about that. And then I'm going to be also on with Constantine to get kind of his perspective of things. So we'll hopefully see, get a good, well-rounded understanding of what's going on.
They've all done. Everybody, Border Patrol, ICE. Law enforcement in general is incredible. We have to take care of our law enforcement.
Yeah, Lady Case is a Canadian. I'll never forget, even if he backs down. Yeah, this was unnecessarily adding animosity in the world, and that's not what you want to do in diplomacy, generally
nursing
speaking.
Student named Laken Riley, the best in her class, admired by everybody. Went out for a jog.
Yeah. When is the Georgie interview? I don't know. He and I are working out time. I told him the parameters of when I'm not in class so that we can set up a time for tomorrow or the next day, because I really want to know how Europeans are experiencing this from what he has seen, because I can tell you a lot about the Oval Office side on Friday, but I want to hear how what the ripple effect is like there. Live or taped, I don't know. We're just going to try to figure that out.
Indeed, a failed administration. He had then been arrested and released in a Democrat-run sanctuary city, a disaster, before ending the life of this beautiful young angel. With us this evening are Laken's beloved.
Yeah, this seems like a campaign speech. Somebody saying in the comments. Yeah, it does feel like that. Most State of the Unions do feel like that. Whichever side you're on, you don't like the other guy's speech, generally speaking, and they do sound like this. And that this is very this isn't particular to Donald Trump that it sounds like it sounds. This is kind of how joint sessions of Congress speeches are.
Grieving parents that we.
I mean, you got him speaking about himself a lot as well, but I mean, it other than the only weird thing was the person ejected from the hall. I've never seen that before.
Your 47th president mandates the detention of all dangerous criminal aliens who threaten public safety. It's a very strong, powerful act. It's called the Laken Riley Act. So Allison and Lauren, America will never, ever.
Yeah, while he's talking about that, we're very angry about the blocking of aid. The consensus is the transatlantic alliance is over. And I think that there's something to that. But again, he can swing wildly from one side to the other and back again very quickly. So yeah, Europeans are freaking out about the cost of their defense. Hungary is voting against the EU funds. Yep, I saw that today too. Yep.
Since taking office, my administration has launched the most sweeping border and immigration crackdown in American history, and we quickly achieved the lowest numbers of illegal border crossers ever recorded. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's a good point. Somebody says, "Who cares if he can swing? He'll not be trusted," and that's I understand that. I'm just saying he may very well be in a different place in another time. We just don't know. Um, I'm not saying that that's a good thing. I'm not trying to defend that. I think you want to be more diplomatic and think through like what ripple effect will this cause. Sorry, I missed whatever that was.
Thank you. Joe Biden didn't just open our borders, he flew illegal aliens over them to overwhelm our schools, hospitals, and communities throughout the country. Entire towns like Aurora, Colorado, and Springfield, Ohio, buckled under the weight of the migrant occupation and corruption like nobody's ever seen before. Beautiful towns destroyed. Now, just as I promised in my inaugural address, we are achieving the great liberation of America.
Someone said that where are the chips or where are the microchips coming from? China, or are the rare earth minerals coming from? He's talking about within the U.S.
Is much work to be done. Here tonight is a woman I have gotten to know, Alexis Nungari from Houston. Wonderful woman. Last June, Alexis's 12-year-old daughter, her precious Jocelyn, walked to a nearby convenience store. She was kidnapped, tied up, assaulted for 2 hours under a bridge, and horrifically murdered. Arrested and charged with this heinous crime are 2 illegal alien monsters from Venezuela, released into America by the last administration through their ridiculous open border. The death of this beautiful 12-year-old girl and the agony of her mother and family touched our entire nation greatly. Alexis, I promised that we would always remember your daughter, your magnificent daughter. And earlier tonight, I signed an order keeping my word to you. One thing I have learned about Jocelyn is that she loved animals so much. She loved nature. Across Galveston Bay, from where Jocelyn lived in Houston, you will find a magnificent national wildlife refuge, a pristine, peaceful, 34,000-acre sanctuary for all of God's creatures on the edge of the Gulf of America. Alexis, moments ago, I formally renamed that refuge in loving memory of your beautiful daughter, Jocelyn. So, Mr. Vice President, if you would, may I have the order?
Okay, while they're doing that, and that's nice. That's named after this uh, child who was unfortunately murdered. Okay, Cheryl says Trump wants to get rid of taxes on his Social Security. Cheryl's back. Um, how was it elsewhere? Was it any more fun or exciting, or I'm just curious what your experience was over there, or just depressed? Uh, yeah, okay.
Savages charged with Jocelyn and Lakin's murders were members of the Venezuelan prison gang, the toughest gang they say in the world, known as Tren de Aragua. 2 weeks ago, I officially designated this gang, along with MS-13 and the bloodthirsty Mexican drug cartels, as foreign terrorist organizations.
So he's doing this to highlight something to like he has that mother of the slain child there to highlight his concept, his policy principle, or whatever it is. So, okay.
They are now officially in the same category as ISIS, and that's not good for them. Countless thousands of these terrorists were welcomed into the U.S. by the Biden administration. But now every last one will be rounded up and forcibly removed from our country, or if they're too dangerous, put in jails, standing trial in this country, because we don't want them to come back ever. with us this evening is a warrior on the front lines of that battle.
Cheryl said, save 11 billion more than Elon Musk has by cutting and getting rid of Elon Musk's Tesla subsidy welfare. Yeah, I say that's fair. Get rid of all those kind of subsidies. I'm fine with that. That's cut those subsidies across the board. So my guess is on the other side
In
of
January,
of this, we'll
Roberto
get to
and
Ukraine
another
or
agent were
something, but
patrolling by the Rio Grande.
this was
Here-
a big thing. Like people that voted for Trump in the primaries, this was one of the most motivating things was dealing with the border. So it pulled very high for Trump, very low comparatively for Haley.
returning fire and providing crucial seconds for his fellow agent to.
You're right, William. Trump is not a free market president. I totally concur with that.
I have
He's a protectionist.
prints of that event, and it was not good. Agent Ortiz, we salute you for your great courage and for your line of fire that you took and for the bravery that you showed. We honor you, and we will always honor you. Thank you, Roberto, very much.
Paul Zoom says, do I mean Biden's subsidies? Right. I mean anyone's subsidies. I mean, it's not necessary. And then somebody was just talking about, where was it? Trump wouldn't troll us like that. No, I don't think he's
One of my
trolling. I
many
think he's going to get
calls
to it.
to the border. He's a great gentleman. The territory to the immediate south of our border is now dominated entirely by criminal cartels that murder, rape, torture, and exercise total control. They have total control over a whole nation, posing a grave threat to our national security. The cartels are waging war on America, and it's time for America to wage war on the cartels, which we are doing. Five nights ago, Mexican authorities, because of our tariff policies being imposed on them, think of this, handed over to us 29 of the biggest cartel leaders in their country. That has never happened before. They want to make us happy. First time ever. But we need Mexico and Canada to do much more than they've done, and they have to stop the fentanyl and drugs pouring into the USA. They're going to stop it. I have sent Congress a detailed funding request laying out exactly how we will eliminate these threats to protect our homeland and complete the largest deportation operation in American history, larger even than current record holder, President Dwight D. Eisenhower, a moderate man, but someone who believed very strongly in borders. Americans expect Congress to send me this funding without delay so I can sign it into law. So, Mr. Speaker,
Who you're looking at here,
John Thune,
it
both
was
of you,
Kristi
I hope
Noem.
you're going to be able to do that, Mr. Speaker.
Kristi Noem
Thank
is
you.
the head of Homeland Security.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And let's get it to me. I'll sign it so fast, you won't even believe it. And as we reclaim our sovereignty, we must also bring back law and order to our cities and towns. In recent years, our justice system has been turned upside down by radical left lunatics. Many jurisdictions virtually ceased enforcing the law against dangerous repeat offenders while weaponizing law enforcement against political opponents like me. My administration has acted swiftly and decisively to restore fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law, starting at the FBI and the DOJ. Pam, good luck. Cash, wherever you may be, good luck. Good luck. Pam Bondi. Good luck. So important. Going to do a great job. Cash.
So here's one of the really interesting quirks of the American system. If you're not from the United States, the Attorney General is actually appointed by the president, which means that things are kind of politicized, even if they're not supposed to be politicized. It's just a weird thing. It would be far better if the Attorney General had kind of a military or Supreme Court kind of thinking in the way that they approach things. But the way that we do it in the U.S. is it almost can't help but become somewhat politicized one way or the other, depending on which administration you're in. It's kind of, it seems like a defect in the system.
Respected, and they soon will respect it. This also includes our great fire departments throughout the country. Our firemen and women are unbelievable people, and it will never.
Rainy River says kind of politicized. No, it becomes pretty politicized, unfortunately. And when the original system was created, there were not political parties. Political parties grew up after it, and so they didn't expect that to happen. In fact, the way the original system worked was the person that has the most votes, electoral college votes, becomes president, and the person with the second amount becomes vice president. So you could have had a Kamala Trump or Trump Kamala presidency if we hadn't amended the Constitution.
His murder had 21 prior arrests, and they were rough arrests too. He was a real bad one. The thug in the seat next to him had 14 prior arrests.
Brian says that it's usually not politicized during the when Dems are in charge, at least not after Nixon. I don't think you'll find a Republican that will agree with you, conservative, populist, libertarian, or whatever. But that's just, we see the world differently. Different people see things differently. Yeah, and William says maybe not to the same degree. Okay, that might be fair. I think most of the most hardcore MAGA supporters think that the Justice Department was using lawfare to go after Trump, and they're convinced beyond any shadow of a doubt. That may be true, may not be true. That's not the issue. They see it that way.
They hit people over the head, back of the head with baseball bats. We got to get them out of here. I've already signed an executive order requiring a mandatory death penalty for anyone who murders a police officer. And tonight I'm asking Congress to pass that policy into permanent law.
So generally, you would hear that as something reserved for the states. Generally, the federal government can do these things, and everything else, 10th Amendment, everything else goes to the states. So a federal law that any police officer being killed would be a death penalty automatically. That's a little unusual, but okay.
Of their lives being totally destroyed. They don't want to be killed. We're not going to let them be killed. Joining us in the gallery tonight is a young man who truly loves our police. His name is DJ Daniel. He is 13 years old, and he has always dreamed of becoming a police officer.
This is one of the most bipartisan moments that you'll see.
But in 2018, DJ was diagnosed with brain cancer. The doctors gave him 5 months at most to live. That was more than 6 years ago.
Yeah, good, feel good moment. Everyone can get behind that. Well, almost everyone.
Since that time, DJ and his dad have been on a quest to make his dream come true, and DJ has been sworn in as an honorary law enforcement officer actually a number of times. The police love him, the police departments love him. And tonight, DJ, we're going to do you the biggest honor of them all. I am asking our new Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to officially make you an agent of the United States Secret Service.
The look on his face. Okay, that's a nice moment. Pretty much everybody can be happy for a little kid that had some kind of brain cancer or something. Okay, so people are commenting like, what's going on? Okay, it's not saying that he's actually going to be out on the streets trying to track people down or defend the president or whatever. That's not it. It's like a Make-A-Wish Foundation kind of thing.
Thank you, DJ. DJ's doctors believe his cancer likely came from a chemical he was exposed to when he was younger. Since 1975, rates of child cancer have increased by more than 40%. Reversing this trend is one of the top priorities for our new presidential commission to make America healthy again, chaired by our new Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. With the name Kennedy, you would have thought everybody over here would have been cheering. How quickly they forget. Our goal is to get.
That's actually a pretty good line, given that Kennedy's illustrious legacy on the Democratic side of the aisle.
And strong. As an example,
Although RFK Jr. is not cut out of the same cloth.
You can't even believe these numbers. 1 in 10,000 children had autism. 1 in 10,000. And now it's 1 in 36. There's something wrong. 1 in 36. Think of that. So we're going to find out what it is, and there's nobody better than Bobby and all of the people that are working with you. You have the best to figure out.
So somebody said, I can't believe, or sorry, I doubt that Trump actually cares about that kid or his parents. It's all just a publicity stunt. Every time they highlight someone, they're highlighting someone for a reason. That's the way it works with every person that they are highlighting, whether it's a Republican or Democrat president or what have you.
Working to protect our children from toxic ideologies in our schools. A few years ago, January, Littlejohn and her husband discovered that their daughter's school had secretly socially transitioned their 13-year-old little girl. Teachers and administrators conspired to deceive January and her husband while encouraging her daughter to use a new name and pronouns. They, them pronoun, actually. All without telling January.
Okay, it seems like we can't be very far away from getting to Ukraine or Russia or something along those lines. What other observations do you have or questions about how our system works or things that you watched? I'll try to answer them while we're getting to whatever we're getting to. Can't wait for the big surprise from the Democrats tonight with protests. Well, we already had that earlier. Is it a trick? It's so boring. This is what my wife says, because I religiously watch these things, and my wife thinks it's a little on the boring side.
Ideology.
I hope we get something of substance.
Cut off all taxpayer funding to any institution that engages in the sexual mutilation of our youth. And now I want
Maybe Ukraine's at the end so we can run out quickly. I don't know. We'll see how that all plays out.
Any child is trapped in the wrong body. This is a big lie. And
Is there any way to move away from a two-party system? Seems chaotic, flipping back and forth all the time. Yeah, well, the alternative is to have the coalitions on the back end, which is what they do in like Europe, right? I mean, so we do our coalitions on the front end in the primaries, and how we get to each of the two parties. It's different. That's just the way we do it.
and it's already out, and it's out of our society. We don't want it. Well,
Can Trump be removed for half a term, someone asked, or will he be there 100% for the next 4 years? Theoretically, he could be impeached and removed, but there's not enough votes to do either of those things. There's not enough votes to get an impeachment in the House or removal in the Senate, unless he does something so egregious that all the Republicans have to go, you know what, I can't not do this. And like both of his impeachments, the Republicans generally felt was just a political attack on him. Hold on, here's Hegseth. So we're probably getting close to something relating to Ukraine. I'll shut up.
and he's not big into the woke movement, I can tell you. I know him well. I am pleased to report that in January, the U.S. Army had its single best recruiting month in 15 years, and that all armed services are having among the best recruiting results ever in the history of our services. What a difference.
Yeah, there's one general that's kind of smiling. Everyone else has just a straight face on it. They're not supposed to be showing any
was
kind of sign of
just
anything.
A few months ago, where the results were exactly the opposite. We couldn't recruit anywhere. We couldn't recruit. Now we're having the best results just about that we've ever had. What a tremendous turnaround.
Somebody asked if that's
It's
true.
really a beautiful
I've heard
thing to
something that
see.
the recruiting is up,
People
but I
love our
don't know if
country
it's the
again.
best
It's
in
very
15
simple.
years.
They love our country, and they love being in our military again. So it's a great thing, and thank you very much. Great job. Thank you. We're joined tonight by a young man, Jason Hartley, who knows the weight of that call of duty. Jason's father, grandfather, and great-grandfather all wore the uniform. Jason tragically lost his dad, who was also a Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputy when he was just a boy, and now he wants to carry on the family legacy of service. Jason is a senior in high school, a 6-letter varsity athlete, a really good athlete, they say, a brilliant student with a 4.46, that's good, GPA. And his greatest dream is to attend the U.S. Military Academy at West Point.
Does all Republicans support adding a third term for presidents? Pretty much nobody on either side of the aisle is for that, to my knowledge. Yeah, 4.46 GPA, 4.0 is an A plus. How do you get higher than that? Ooh, pick me. I can answer that. I'm a professor. So if you have additional classes that are honors or AP or something along those lines, it actually counts as higher, and that can increase your GPA.
Get out. Thank you. Jason, you're going to be on the long gray line, Jason.
So I guess
As
he's going to West Point,
Commander-in-Chief,
that kid.
my focus is on building the most powerful military of the future. As a first step, I'm asking Congress to fund a state-of-the-art Golden Dome missile defense shield. to
Okay, here we go
protect
with
our
international.
homeland, all made in the USA.
Notice how the generals are keeping a straight face, like the Supreme Court. They don't show any emotion.
And Ronald Reagan wanted to do it long ago, but the technology just wasn't there, not even close. But now we have the technology. It's incredible, actually. and other places they have it. Israel has it. Other places have it.
But Israel's the size of New Jersey, easier to defend.
Right, Tim, right? They should have it too. So I want to thank you. But it's a very, very important. This is a very dangerous world. We should have it. We want to be protected, and we're going to protect our citizens like never before.
Great, here we are.
To
Thanks for
boost
sticking
our
around.
defense industrial base, we are also going to resurrect the American shipbuilding industry, including commercial shipbuilding and military shipbuilding. And for that purpose, I am announcing tonight that we will create a new Office of Shipbuilding in the White House and offer special tax incentives to bring this industry home to America where it belongs. We used to make so many buildings. I am announcing tonight that we will anymore very much, but we're going to make them very fast, very soon. It will have a huge impact. To further enhance our national security, my administration will be reclaiming the Panama Canal, and we've already started doing
Oh boy. Well, that's something. Reclaiming it how?
Just today, a large American company announced they are buying both ports around the Panama Canal and lots of other things having to do with the Panama Canal and a couple of other canals. The Panama Canal was built by Americans for
Okay, so
Americans, not for
that's not a
others.
military
But
takeover.
others
That's
could use it.
I shouldn't
But it
be
was built
nervous
at
about this
tremendous
kind of
cost
thing.
of American blood and treasure. 38,000 workers died building the Panama Canal. They died of malaria. They died of snake bites and mosquitoes. Not a nice place to work. They paid them very highly to go there, knowing there was a 25% chance that they would die. The most expensive project also that was ever built in our country's history, if you bring it up to modern day costs. It was given away by the Carter administration for $1, but that agreement has been violated very severely. We didn't give it to China. We gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back.
So while you're wondering what's going on, as I understand, there's some kind of clause that allows us to do something like that if it's being violated or outside, like if hostile power is involved or something along those lines. I could be wrong about that, but I read something along those lines, and I'm not well versed in this, so please take that with a huge grain of salt, what I just said.
You know, he was approved with actually 99, but the 100th was this gentleman, and I feel very certain. So let's assume he got 100 votes, and I'm either very, very happy about that or I'm very concerned about it. But he's already proven. I mean, he's a great gentleman. He's respected by everybody, and we appreciate you voting for Marco. He's going to do a fantastic job. Thank you.
Yeah, Marco Rubio was little Marco during the campaign when he was opposing Trump. And this is part of how Trump rolls. If you're opposed to him, you're the worst, you're terrible, you're little Marco, you have small hands. Remember that in the election?
Message tonight for the incredible people of Greenland. We strongly support your right to determine your own future. And if you choose, we welcome you into the United States of America. We need Greenland for national security and even international security, and we're working with everybody involved to try and get it. But we need it really for international world security, and I think we're going to get it. One way or the other, we're going to get it. We will keep
That's
you
weird
safe.
and shouldn't be laughed at.
We will make you rich, and together we will take Greenland to heights like you have never thought possible before. It's a very small population, but very, very large piece of land and very, very important for military security. America is once again standing strong against the forces of radical Islamic terrorism. 3.5 years ago, ISIS terrorists killed 13 American service members and countless others in the Abbey Gate bombing during the disastrous and incompetent withdrawal from Afghanistan. Not that they were withdrawing, it was the way they withdrew. Perhaps the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. Tonight, I am pleased to announce that we have just apprehended the top terrorist responsible for that atrocity, and he is right now on his way here to face the swift sword of American justice.
I'm not sure if that was the big announcement or just what. Aaron says, so sleepy.
Thank especially the government of Pakistan for helping arrest this monster. This was a very momentous day for those 13 families who I actually got to know very well, most of them, whose children were murdered, and the many people that were so badly, over 42 people, so badly injured on that fateful day in Afghanistan. What a horrible day. Such incompetence was shown that when Putin saw what happened, I guess he said, wow, maybe this is my chance. That's how bad it was. Should have never happened. Grossly incompetent people.
Seems like
I
we're getting
spoke to many
close.
of the parents and loved ones, and they're all in our hearts tonight. Just spoke to them on the phone. We had a big call. Every one of them called, and everybody was on the line, and they did nothing but cry with happiness. They were very happy, as happy as you can be under those circumstances. Their child, brother, sister, son, daughter was killed for no reason whatsoever. In the Middle East, we're bringing back our hostages from Gaza. In my first term, we achieved one of the most groundbreaking peace agreements in generations, the Abraham Accords. And now we're going to build on that foundation to create a more peaceful and prosperous future for the entire region. A lot of things are happening in the Middle East. People have been talking about that so much lately with everything going on with Ukraine and Russia.
Okay, getting
A
there.
lot of things are happening in the Middle East. It's a rough neighborhood, actually. I'm also working tirelessly to end the savage conflict in Ukraine.
Okay, here we go, people.
Millions of Ukrainians and Russians have been needlessly killed or wounded in this horrific and brutal conflict with no end in sight. The United States has sent hundreds of billions of dollars to support Ukraine's defense with no security, with no anything.
There's clapping from the left side of the aisle. That's what's going on. Thank you, Jay Vitarelli. So kind of
Do you
you.
want to keep it going for another 5 years? Yeah, you would say Pocahontas says yes.
Pocahontas is the reference to Senator Warren of Massachusetts, who once claimed that she was part Indian or something in a college application.
2,000 people are being killed every single week. More than that. They're Russian young people. They're Ukrainian young people. They're not Americans, but I want it to stop. Meanwhile, Europe has sadly spent more money buying Russian oil and gas than they have spent on defending Ukraine by far. Think of that.
I don't know if that's
They've
true.
spent more buying Russian oil and gas than they have defending. And we've spent perhaps $350 billion.
I know that that's not the
like
right
taking
number.
candy from a baby. That's what happened. And they've spent $100 billion. What a difference that is. And
Yeah, we're going to have to fact check
a
that one
notion
tomorrow.
separating us, and they don't. But we're getting along very well with them, and lots of good things are happening. Biden has authorized more money in this fight than Europe has spent by billions and billions of dollars. It's hard to believe that they wouldn't have stopped it and said at some point, come on, let's equalize. You got to be equal to us. But that didn't happen. Earlier today, I received an important letter from President Zelensky of Ukraine.
Here we go.
The letter reads, Ukraine is ready to come to the negotiating table as soon as possible to bring lasting peace closer. Nobody wants peace more than the Ukrainians, he said. My
Okay.
team and I stand ready to work under President Trump's strong leadership to get a peace that lasts. We do really value how much America has done to help Ukraine maintain its sovereignty and independence. Regarding the agreement on minerals and security, Ukraine is ready to sign it at any time that is convenient for you.
I read that in the
I
three big stories
appreciate
tonight.
that he sent this letter, just got it a little while ago. Simultaneously, we've had serious discussions with Russia and have received strong signals that they are ready for peace. Wouldn't that be beautiful? Wouldn't that be beautiful?
I mean, I'm all for peace too, but it's got to be good peace that's going to guarantee security.
Wouldn't that be beautiful?
Not the wrong kind of peace, though.
It's
Bad
time
peace
to
is
stop
bad.
this madness. It's time to halt the killing. It's time to end this senseless war. If you want to end wars, you have to talk to both sides. Nearly 4 years ago, amid rising tensions, a history teacher named Mark Fogel was detained in Russia and sentenced to 14 years in a penal colony. Rough stuff. The previous administration barely lifted a finger to help him. They knew he was innocent, but they had no idea where to begin. But last summer, I promised his 95-year-old mother, Malphine, that we would bring her boy safely back home. After 22 days in office, I did just that, and they are here tonight.
So I don't know about the rest of the equation, like who Russia got back, but it wasn't for nothing. And Trump looks at this like, see, Putin, look what he did for us. So Putin did that at just the right time to kind of smooth the treads with Trump. I'm not against the guy being back. I'm just like, there's more to the story. You got to be careful with that.
To Mark and his great mom, we are delighted to have you safe and sound and with us. As fate would have it, Mark Fogel was born in a small rural town in Butler, Pennsylvania. Have you heard of it? Where his mother has lived for the past 78 years. I just happened to go there last July 13th for a rally. That was not pleasant. And that is where I met his beautiful mom right before I walked onto that stage. And I told her I would not forget what she said about her son. And I never did I? Never forgot. Less than 10 minutes later, at that same rally, gunfire rang out, and a sick and deranged assassin unloaded 8 bullets from his sniper's perch into a crowd of many thousands of people. My life was saved by a fraction of an inch, but some were not so lucky. Corey Comparator was a firefighter, a veteran, a Christian, a husband, a devoted father, and above all, a protector. When the sound of gunshots pierced the air, it was a horrible sound. Corey knew instantly what it was and what to do. He threw himself on top of his wife and daughters and shielded them from the bullets with his own body. Corey was hit really hard. You know the story from there. He sacrificed his life to save theirs. 2 others, very fine people, were also seriously hit. But thankfully, with the help of 2 great country doctors, we thought they were gone and they were saved. So those doctors had great talent. We're joined by Corey's wife, Helen, who was his high school sweetheart, and their 2 beloved daughters, Allison and Kaylee. Thank you. To Helen, Allison, and Kaylee, Corey is looking down on his three beautiful ladies right now, and he is cheering you on. He loves you. He is cheering you on. Corey was taken from us much too soon, but his destiny was to leave us all with a shining example of the selfless devotion of a true American patriot. It was love like Corey's that built our country.
I'm seeing comments like the girls look unhappy and they don't like him. And like, after talking about your dad that was just shot and killed at this thing, you're probably not going to want to be all smiley. So I'd give them a little bit of a pass on this.
By God, to make America great again. I believe that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. From the patriots of Lexington and Concord to the heroes of Gettysburg and Normandy, from the warriors who crossed the Delaware to the trailblazers who climbed the Rockies, and from the legends who soared at Kitty Hawk to the astronauts who touched the moon, Americans have always been the people who defied all odds.
And some of the people are asking, was that it, all it about Ukraine? I don't know. I don't know if he's circling back or just what. So I didn't write the script. I'm sorry.
And as we have seen in this chamber tonight, that same strength, faith, love, and spirit is still alive and thriving in the hearts of the American people. Despite the best efforts of those who would try to censor us, silence us, break us, destroy us, Americans are today a proud, free, sovereign, and independent nation that will always be free, and we will fight for it till death. We will never let anything happen to our beloved country, because we are a country of doers, dreamers, fighters, and survivors. Our ancestors crossed a vast ocean, strode into the unknown wilderness, and carved their fortunes from the rock and soil of a perilous and very dangerous frontier. They chased our destiny across a boundless continent. They built the railroad.
Okay, when he's done here, I'll answer whatever questions you might have about Ukraine. My thinking was, and Greg Terry was telling me that an hour before this happened, like, hey, Zelensky didn't sign a mineral deal yet. My thinking was that he was going to announce the mineral deal, and maybe that was what his big thing was supposed to be, and that wasn't it. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what the big thing is at this point.
Fascists and Marxists all over the world, and gave us countless modern wonders sculptured out of iron, glass, and steel. We stand on the shoulders of these pioneers who won and built the modern age. These workers who poured their sweat into the skylines of our cities. These warriors who shed their blood on fields of battle and gave everything they had for our rights and for our freedom.
Yeah, I saw a comment, Ukraine should keep dangling the mineral deal, smart politics. Yeah, I don't know you want to give that up. That's one of the things that they want to trade for something useful, something big like real security guarantees.
In the history of our country, this will be our greatest era. With God's help, over the next 4 years, we are going to lead this nation even higher, and we are going to forge the freest, most advanced, most dynamic, and most dominant civilization ever to exist on the face of this earth. We are going to create the highest quality of life, build the safest and wealthiest and healthiest and most vital communities anywhere in the world. We are going to conquer the vast frontiers of science, and we are going to lead humanity into space and plant the American flag on the planet Mars and even far beyond.
All right, somebody said nothing would surprise me if he announces lifting some sanctions on Russia. Well, he didn't say that. So all in all, that's a win. Let's see. Somebody else said, oh man, they said something else here that I wanted to flag, and I missed it now. Did he say it was going to be a big thing? Yeah, he did say it was going to be a big thing, but he didn't say anything about Russia. So that's good.
Promise of the American dream. Every single day we will stand up and we will fight, fight, fight for the country our citizens believe in and for the country our people deserve. My fellow Americans, get ready for an incredible future because the golden age of America has only just begun. It will be like nothing that has ever been seen before. Thank you. God bless you, and God bless.
All right, so that's pretty much it. Greg Terry just said Prof, he has nothing to say about Ukraine because there is no plan, and not once did he mention Russian atrocities. I didn't think he was going to mention Russian atrocities. Okay, get your questions out. We'll answer whatever you want to answer, and let's start looking at this. I doubt that Trump knows what a lasting peace with Russia means. I think that's probably right. Like, I don't think he does have a plan at this point moving forward. That's all. That's the foreign relations part is over. I'm not sure what the big thing was. Like, he was talking about, like, get ready. There's going to be the big announcement. I'm not sure what the big announcement was. Where was the big announcement? Okay, nothing will happen. Dow goes down. Nobody cares. He's going to crown himself king of the solar system. Let's see, $1 trillion for Musk to go to Mars. Okay, what questions do you have? Let's see where we are with your questions. I thought wealthy people just sent the poor kids off to fight. JD really looks like a toddler with a beard. That one's not all that helpful. Fart, fart, fart. No, it was fight, 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 not fart, fart, fart. If you couldn't hear it, I understand. Okay, so I'm going to try to answer your questions from the bottom. And if I don't answer, just come back, circle back to it. What do you think about the whole thing going around lately about Trump being recruited by the KGB? I say you got to be really careful to not make those kind of speculations without some kind of evidence, because that doesn't help. If you have proof, prove it, and let's talk about what we can prove. But otherwise, it's just adding more disinformation to the mix, and that doesn't help anybody. I like fart, fart, fart better. What would be the best version of security guarantees for Ukraine? That's a really good question. NATO, I think, would be the best security guarantee. Short of that, the idea that was floated by the president of Finland, that if it's violated, if NATO gets violated, or if there's a peace deal and then Russia violates it, which Russia will violate it, then they're automatically in NATO. It's like you arrange it in that way. But Russia will never go for that kind of arrangement. Prof, is Europa, hold on, that's just is Europa going to get an army up? How many months or years? It will take them a while to get themselves sorted out, but I think they really need to. I got nothing out of this except increasing shipbuilding, but putting tariff on Canada is something blank, 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 blank. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, there wasn't much about Ukraine like you would have thought after all of this. And I'm going to watch the political commentators afterwards when this is all over. Like, what was the big announcement? Did you know what the big announcement was? I didn't see it. I'm guessing Zelensky's message came too late to the speech. Yeah, I was thinking that it's probably about the mineral deal, or we've got to, Zelensky's on board or whatever, and he wasn't able to say that really. Okay. Trump, yeah, I think you're right, Cheryl. Cheryl's announcement here, Trump is more likely an unwitting asset, or he's unwittingly helping the Russians because he just happens to be aligned with what they're doing, and they flatter him and kind of gently coax him that particular direction. She goes on and says Putin's able to manipulate him because of his narcissism. That may be, if I had to bet between that they have disinform, or what do you call it, compromat or something on him, and they're controlling him, as opposed to that, I would say it's probably what Cheryl said, not the other. But I could be proven wrong, and if there was something, I'd say, look, no, that's fair if that's what actually happened. Okay. What can Americans do to make this catastrophe good? Civil disruption an option? No, I mean, you like really like you have to work the channels of talking to your senators and congressmen, really convince them. And oh, there's Marjorie Taylor Greene that he was just right here to his left. Yeah, you just have to work those channels. In 2 years, I think you'll see the House flip, maybe the Senate. I don't know, but once the House flips, then everything changes significantly. And the way that he's pushing, so generally if the president's party has the House and the Senate, they overshoot. I was talking about this before the election. The best case scenario would have been if if Kamala Harris wins, then either the House or the Senate stays in conservative hands, preferably the Senate, because the Senate is the more mature body, and the Senate is also has a higher level of people that are willing to work together, and they would also support Ukraine together. They proved that they would. If President Trump wins, that the Republicans keep the Senate, maybe even if they lose the House, or better, it's actually better if they keep the Senate and lose the House, because then they're not likely to overshoot. The problem is, and this is what happened during Obama's first term, the first 2 years, they overshot. Same thing. And this is the same kind of thing that Trump's about to do. He's going to overshoot, and then he's going to lose the House. So that's how this will play out, I think. Okay, other questions that you have. Trump wants a ceasefire only wants a ceasefire for now. I'm researching how long it took to for the Russians to actually break their agreements. It's crazy. I'll show you that shortly. Is it normal Congress has nothing to do for this year? No, they're working on legislation. They just don't have it out yet. Whole thing I saw had more bullet points, but I just remember being something like that. Mentioned him having a meeting, the Kremlin coming back and taking 174K out against NATO. I don't know what we're talking about here. New comments. Trump will not provide security if UK, France, Italy, Canada attack Russia. With Ukraine now, would they not prevail? Yeah, so it depends on how committed they are. The problem with Europe is not that they can't do it, it's that they don't have the will, or have not so far had the will to do things. I'm glad you're here, Prof, to remind some of us that some Americans are saying, yeah, well, I'm glad I could help. I think Minsk 2 ceasefire lasted 72 days. I saw something about 71 days, and then somebody challenged me and said, hey, I think you got the wrong information. So then I started using some AI to try to track this out. And like many of these agreements were just a couple of days and before the Russians violated them. So does Trump really believe that he can annex Canada by going to war with them financially? I don't think that that's actually going to happen, or that's likely. What's she saying?
And Representative Virginia Fox of North Carolina is gaveling the House out of session as the president has left the House chamber.
That's fine. We don't need to watch that. Next live stream, tell Trump to start earlier. It's cutting into my bedtime. All right. So yeah, with Panama, I'm glad it's not like it looks like that's part of what the deal that Rubio made with dealing with American companies are going to take this over, so it doesn't get into hostile hands. And the reason is because that really becomes a security issue if our ships, especially warships, have to go around all the way around South America. And so that was, I think, baked into the original agreement, even though Carter gave it away, that it could return if it was a security thing. So I'm glad that it's not like a military kind of takeover, but it's just a like, hey, they're buying these companies, the ports on either end or something like that. Okay. I'd actually like to go through the Panama Canal, through the locks. I think that would be kind of fun to do. Like, that's just me. I'm kind of nerdy like that. Okay. Hold on. Something just popped up here where I saw Reagan, and let me see what that is. Professor, isn't Trump the exact reason that we froze Ronald Reagan in the early 1990s to come back to attack the people like President Trump? I mean, I don't understand what that means. I think that's kind of a joke, but that'll be interesting to hear about. Operator Starsky said they were hunting civilians with drones into nets during the ceasefire in Kherson. This isn't the first time. Wow. Okay. Okay. Any other questions that are like really pressing? And I'll answer 3 more and then we're out of here. Okay. Because like I know you need your beauty rest just like I do. I don't mean that in a mean way. I'm just saying like I need to get to sleep too. Can we unfreeze Reagan? That's not counting. If only. It's just such a different yeah. How come Trump like Russian this much, but still see China as an enemy? That's a really good question. When Russian and China is pretty much best pals. So one of the theories here. Now this is really good. I'm glad you asked that. One of the theories here is that what Trump might be doing is trying to cozy up to Russia to split Russia from China to isolate China. Of course, that's not really a good way of doing it. Because you're kind of abandoning Ukraine when you're cozying up to Russia, but that might be part of what's going on in their mind. Greg Terry said Trump did not announce a full stop to Ukrainian aid for a future. We're still on a pause. That's right. This could have been a whole lot worse, and I'm glad that it wasn't a whole lot worse. Ark Sin says Trump wants to land grab as much as Putin, Xi, and Kim. Is there a rush for rare earth? Wait, hold on. That's rare earth resources. Yeah, I don't know. And strategic trade routes. I don't know what's actually going on with that. Okay. Okay. That's it. That's all I said 3 things and we already passed the 3. So thank you for your time, folks. Thank you. If you could hit the like button on your way out so that other people so YouTube, whatever, can see that, I'd greatly appreciate that. You don't have to, but I'd appreciate it if you would. Thank you. I can see the likes starting to pop up. So thanks a bunch. All right. That's it. Thanks for the likes and the shares and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.